Def Jam. I guess you guys all know Quincy, right?
Yeah.
I don't know Quincy well. We got Jim Henke. Jim was the original curator that put together the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He put it together. He was the original curator. He was the vice president of Electro Records and then music editor for Rolling Stone magazine for 10 years, close to 10 years. Right?
Yeah, I've worked in it.
So he's in the industry. He's like the man, really well known. So we're bringing him back some more for some people because they really need to hear his story. He does a lot of, especially when it comes to writing and things for young people. They can understand that part about it. I'm the owner of this place. We're partners and we do stuff, and I get some events. So
Give me a resume.
ain't nobody here.
You take it though. You take it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot about you, man.
How'd you forget about him?
Again, right now we're building a brand new venue. It's the biggest venue in Northeast Ohio. It's being built in Akron, the old Goodyear plant. Be opening in 3 or 4 or 5 months, about 4 months. It's a huge facility, right, guys?
Oh, yeah.
I used to own some facilities here called the Millennium downtown, big club here back in the day. I own Power Taboo, which is in Atlanta, a bunch of other clubs. I did the Kings of Comedy tour on that. Best of Both Worlds tour on that. Managed the Temptations, or OJ's and the Dales. I work with Future 2 Chainz Amigos as a consultant. I'm going to list. I'm still broke. So what the hell? But, so we're going to go on with this program and try to talk a little bit. I'm going to talk about management. I'm talk a little bit about the digitization of the industry, the new things like I'm going to talk to you guys about virtual reality, how that's coming aboard, what's happening with that in the next few years. I'm going to talk about streaming and new people. I'm working with Spotify. I'm one of the board members there now, so I work with them. So I have a chance to get my people with streaming with billboards and things on Spotify.
Thank you all for coming out, appreciate it. My name's Jim Henke, as Dwight said, and basically I'm just going to go through my history. And I grew up here in Cleveland, and my first exposure to music really was sort of around the time the Beatles hit the scene, and I was about maybe not quite 10 years old or so then. And Cleveland back then was really a cool music town. There were a lot of great radio stations. There were a lot of music venues and stuff like that. And bands would come here all the time and play at Public Hall, play at some of the theaters, Playhouse Square and stuff like that. And I went to a bunch of shows as a kid. And I really, and radio stations were just a lot different back then than they are now. And they played a lot more music, and they really gave bands a chance to really become famous and get big. And so during that whole British invasion period and all that is when I really started getting into music. And then I took some lessons and learned how to play bass guitar. And when I was in high school, I formed 2 bands. The first one was called the Amen Blues Band. And the second one was called Nirvana before the other Nirvana. So, yeah, that was my funny story. But anyway, my other love was always writing. And as a kid, well, after I got into music, I started subscribing to Rolling Stone magazine. And I'd read that all the time and see what was going on in the music world. And then when I was in high school, I started writing for our high school paper, and I became the editor of the high school paper. And then I decided I wanted to major in journalism in college. And so I was the first person in my family ever to go to college. And so I was originally just going to go to Kent State, so they had a journalism school there. And then one day my father's boss said, you ought to look into Ohio Wesleyan. Here they have a really good journalism school. So I looked into it. It turned out it looked really good. And I applied, and they gave me all kinds of financial aid, so I was able to go to Ohio Wesleyan. And that was one of the best things I ever did, probably because it was the guy who ran their journalism program was really good at make you write and rewrite stories over and over again until you sort of got them perfect. And it really helped me. And so when I was in college, I was also working at the college newspaper. And then after my junior year of college, I got after my junior year of college, I got an internship at the Plain Dealer, and I started working there. And then after I finished during the summer, they asked me if I want to work on weekends during the school year. And so basically what I do is I'd be down at Ohio Wesleyan, and I'd drive up here on Friday afternoon, and then work on Friday night and Saturday night at the Plain Dealer, and then Sunday I'd go back down, and that was the day we had to basically put our college paper to bed, so it was sort of crazy. But I did that, and so I had the internship, then I worked part-time during my whole senior year of college, and then they gave me a full-time job after graduation. It was a news job, and then one day my boss at the Plain Dealer, she had gone to Kent State. She was down in Kent at a bar one night, and she met some guy, and the guy told her that Rolling Stone magazine was moving their headquarters from San Francisco to New York, and as a result was going to be hiring people. So she came in to the Plain Dealer the next day and told me that, because she knew I loved music and all that. And it was sort of funny because when I was in college, one of the classes I had to take was called report writing, and one of the things I had to do was write a job application letter, and I'd written one to Rolling Stone magazine. So I got it out and updated it a little bit and sent it off. And lo and behold, I was hired by Rolling Stone. It was crazy, but I got hired by Rolling Stone magazine. And originally I was hired as what they call a copy editor, which is like a secondary editor on stories. But then gradually they asked me to start writing. They'd asked me to start writing stories, so I started doing a lot of profiles of different people and all that. And back in those days, Rolling Stone was the music magazine. It was really important. And the great thing was, like, a lot of times if a band was putting out a new album or whatever, they'd go to a coffee shop or something like that and have 20 journalists sit around the table with them. But if you're from Rolling Stone, you go over to their house and spend the day with them, basically. And I got to do cover stories on a lot of great musicians. Like I did one on Paul McCartney, The Clash, Bonnie Raitt, Eric Clapton, Jerry Garcia, Sting, Neil Young, Bruce Springsteen, and others. And so basically, it was really great. And so then one night, I was around deadline at Rolling Stone in New York, and some of the editors there were complaining that how they thought their West Coast coverage had fallen off since they had left San Francisco. What they really needed to do was open a bureau in LA. And I said, well, I'll do that. And they were like, really, you want to move to LA? Because they were all either like diehard New Yorkers or diehard San Franciscoites, and they didn't like the idea of living in LA. I said, yeah, sure. So they sent me out to LA to set up an office for them. So I did that, and that was sort of during the whole punk era, and I was really into a lot of the punk music and stuff, and I sort of thought that Rolling Stone at the time was putting like B-level movie actresses on the cover instead of bands that I thought were important. And so they hired a new managing editor, and he came out to meet me one time, and basically I thought, well, I'm going to tell him what I think. If he fires me, he fires me, but I don't care, So basically I told him I thought that they were doing everything wrong and they needed to be focusing more on this punk music and stuff. And he said, so he called me about 2 weeks later. He said, Jim, you're coming back to New York. You're going to be the music editor. So I became the music editor at Rolling Stone magazine. It was really great. And probably the best relationship I ever developed at Rolling Stone was with the band U2. And I was the first American journalist ever to write about them. And I wrote a story about them and stuff like that. And then I became friends with the guys in the band because I really loved them. And I was particularly friends with Bono, the lead singer. And we used to exchange books and CDs and stuff like that. And one time I sent him a book about Martin Luther King, and he loved it, and it caused him to write the song Pride in the Name of Love. And the coolest thing is that to this day, if he knows I'm in the audience at one of their shows, and I go to a lot of their shows, a lot of times I go to the show, I'll go backstage before the show and say hi to them or whatever. But to this day, if you, like the last I saw him about a year ago, and it was in Columbus, and basically what he'll say is if they play Pride in the Name of Love, he basically goes out and starts out and saying, ladies and gentlemen, there's a gentleman in the audience, and he was the first American journalist ever to write about us. And then he said, then one time he gave me a book about Martin Luther King, and that inspired me to write this song. So ladies and gentlemen, this song goes out to James Henke, and he just says that at every show I go to just about. So it's really cool. And like I said, working at Rolling Stone was just really tremendous then, and I got to do cover stories on Paul McCartney and all those people, and Eric Clapton, Jerry Garcia, Sting. And it was just really tremendous. And so but I always was interested in the music business. And at one point, the Electro Records at the time was sort of different from a lot of the other labels. They had a lot of interesting artists and sort of more alternative artists. They had like 10,000 Maniacs, Jimmy Dale Gilmore, the Breeders, the Pixies. Those are some of the bands that were on Electro at the time. And but anyway, one time the guy who ran Electro, Bob Krasnow was his name, and he just died recently, died a few weeks ago. But one time he asked if I'd be interested in working for them. And like I say, I was always interested in the music business. So I said, yeah, sure. And he gave me this job as a vice president. It was called Vice President of Product Development. And basically, what I did was, if a band wanted to record a new album and stuff like that, I'd work with the band and maybe figure out who's going to produce it and all that stuff. And then when the album came out, I'd also work with like the publicity department and stuff like that and promote the record and all that. And the music business was so much larger back then. I mean, there were so many major companies like Columbia, Warner Brothers, Atlantic, you know, Elektra, on and on. And there were just so many major companies, and it was just a really different world back then. And people really bought records back then too, or bought CDs, because they didn't have the online services that they have now. So it was really different, and you know, and like I said, it's just changed so much. And so anyway, then I was at Elektra for about a year, and then one day I got a call, and it was Jan Wenner, the guy who ran Rolling Stone, still runs Rolling Stone to this day. He was one of the people who had the idea for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It was basically him and Ahmet Erdogan from Atlantic Records. And they had the idea to do a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And basically their original idea was just to do a smaller museum in Manhattan. And then Cleveland came forward and said it should be a world-class museum. It should be here in Cleveland. And they knew I was from Cleveland and stuff, so they used to have meetings up there. And they did invite me to, and I was music editor of Rolling Stone and stuff, and so they'd invite me to sit in on these meetings. And I'd sit in with them and all that. And then basically, well, I'd sit down in the meetings and stuff, and then like I said, then they finally decided they were going to put the museum in Cleveland, and I loved that since I was from Cleveland originally, and all that. And so then, when I was at Elektra, about a year after I left Rolling Stone, I got a call one day from Jan, and he said basically that Jim, we'd like we'd like to hire you for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. We'd like you to be the curator, and be in charge of collecting everything and putting all the exhibits together and all that. And so I said yes, and it was, since it was in Cleveland, I moved back here to Cleveland. And it was really great because basically I contacted a lot of the artists who I knew and who I had met over the years at Rolling Stone and all that. And, you know, and asked them either to donate items or loan items or whatever. And then we basically came up with a design for the whole museum and all that, and where things would go and everything. And we were really the first popular music magazine, contemporary music, popular music museum, I should say, and contemporary music museum in the world. There were many more now. Now there are many more, but back then it was really the first one. And so I get bands to donate, either donate or loan items to us, either instruments, handwritten lyrics, letters, costumes, things like that, you know. And they were really great. And there were a couple people who were really special. And it was like, one example is John Lennon, and he was dead at the time, but I knew Yoko Ono, and at one point I contacted her, and I went over, and she invited me over to her house, to her apartment in New York, and I went over there, and it turned out she had all this stuff of John's, like all of his like report cards from school, all of his handwritten lyric manuscripts, a lot of his clothing and guitars and stuff like that, many other items. It was just tremendous. She had all this stuff, and so you know, we got some for the museum. And then at one point, after I'd been there a couple of years, she called me and said, you know, this will be John's birthday's coming up in you know, in the next couple of months, and maybe we should do a big exhibit on him. And so basically what we did is I said, yeah, that would be great. And so we did this major exhibit on John Lennon, and back then the major temporary exhibits basically took up the top 2 floors, and it was really tremendous. Like I said, she had so much of his stuff and all that. Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You did good, man.
All right.
Do you, brother?
Jim,
Yeah.
What was your favorite your most favorite exhibit to put together over the Rock Hall?
It was probably the John Lennon one, because it was so cool that we, like I said, he had so much cool stuff, and it was John Lennon on the Beatles, and like I said, it was the Beatles who really introduced me to music and to rock and roll. And I'd say that was probably my favorite exhibit over the years. I mean, we had a lot of really good exhibits with those. Yeah.
From my understanding, Jim Morrison's a pretty interesting person, and what was like some of the most interesting artifacts that you came across when putting together?
Well, again, it was interesting because his parents had saved a lot of their stuff and a lot of his stuff, and he had brothers and sisters, but it was sort of weird because they didn't save their brother and sister stuff, but they saved a lot of his stuff. And they had like a lot of the handwritten lyrics, and then they had some school report cards, a lot of those kind of things, you know, stuff from early on in his life and stuff. And it was really pretty cool. So.
What, what Jim didn't mention is in part of that John Lennon exhibit, like they had this bed that they had the love in.
Oh,
in.
right.
That whole bed was in that exhibit. I was there when Yoko was there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was there that day when she came in, so yeah, really slick.
Oh, thank you guys, really appreciate it.
I started off in the industry in like 2001, and before that, I used to just be like the guy from Cleveland that used to call like Bone Thugs and Harmony to work for him. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I just kind of wanted to work in the music industry, and that was my first internship. So they didn't know what they were doing, but it gave me an opportunity to at least listen and learn and be around a lot of good situations. And then in 2001, like I used to do a lot of underground shows. I still was part of them because it kind of gave me my big break. And my best friend's from Detroit, and he used to have all these guys who used to come in from Detroit. And basically they rock with a show, and they sleep on the floor of my house. And those guys ended up becoming D12 and Millennium. So once they got established, they gave me a job, and I was like one of the tour managers. But my job was to handle lifestyle, it's called lifestyle now, but lifestyle, and I used to handle all the after parties. So at the time, I didn't really know much. They used to pay me $1,000 a day, and I thought that was like big money. I was like, yo, this is great, a lot of money. So at the time, like Jay-Z, Hard Knock Life was out, and I seen Dame Dash say he flies home every Monday and Tuesday, and I was like, that's what I gotta do, I gotta fly home, wasting money for no reason, so. Gave me a chance to see the country, gave me a chance to see the world for the first time, and from there, I went on and did the Rock the Mic tour, which was 50 Cent's introduction, and it was Jay-Z, 50 Cent, and Snoop Dogg. So I went on that tour as well, and then, it led to me getting a job at E1, which is known as Koch Records, and from there, it kind of just took off. So a lot of times I would tell, like New Yorkers, they didn't know about Southern rap at the time, so like my claim to fame was like, yo, there's this guy that's blowing up in my city named Mike Jones, and he's from Houston, and I bridged the relationship between New York City and Houston. So it was like, I was real good friends with like a Millionaire and Mike Jones and Paul Wall. We're all still good friends to this day. And then when they did the deal with Asylum, it kind of just took, kind of certified everything that I believed in, because I was telling them like, hey, sign Slim Thug, sign Mike Jones, sign Paul Wall, sign Mike, and they all end up becoming platinum selling artists. And so at E1, we did the stuff with Jim Jones, like nobody knew who Jim Jones was, so I was his Midwest brand manager. So, of course he took off with the Ballin' record, and now he's, signed at Rock Nation. And we did same thing with like DJ Khaled, DJ Scarface had some groups and stuff like that he put out. But it really taught me the structure and how to work artists and do artist development from the ground up. And, just managing situations. And a lot of times, a lot of independent artists don't make it is because they fail to plan, and they don't have any kind of strategic plan, and they can only see what's right in front of them. So it really let me know like a 6-month plan, a year plan on making things happen for the artist, and then getting certain reactions.